2024. I will now open the IDA meeting up. Attendance call.
Heather Campbell,
Here.
Kamal Johnson,
Present.
Cheryl Kazluka, absent. Randall Martin,
Here.
Dominic Moranti,
Here.
Charles Millard,
Here.
Margaret Morris. Here. You have a quorum.
Awesome. Take a motion in a second to approve the minutes from the August meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Pass it over to the finance, the treasurer's report.
Can I get a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the June 5th finance meeting? Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So nothing really new going on here. We get our big inflection cash, which is the pilot payment from Hudson Terrace in April of every year, which ends up getting parsed out anyway, but that takes a hit into the bank statement. It's been pretty slow in terms of, as everyone would know, there's not been a lot of activity. So aside from regular attorney's bills, there really hasn't been much of anything else out of the account. Anybody have any questions on either the balance sheet or the P&L?
10:33, starting help to stop.
So there seems to be no questions from the finance committee on the financials through August.
I just have one quick question. The land on North Second Street, what is that?
That is the land that we're selling to the
That's the idea.
CCSC.
I just want to make sure that's it. Okay.
Then in terms of the unpaid bills report, ignore the last two. There is a problem with QuickBooks Online, which I will talk to Mike about offline. It's reporting those as outstanding bills when they are in fact bill payments. So right now, the only two outstanding bills are the balance of CEDC's administrative contract. And we still have this outstanding bill from April for Rodenhouse and Shaw because once we are still light in the escrow account from which that should be paid. So we should regroup on that. I know I've sent a few.
Yeah, and I've talked to the respective applicants who need to refresh their escrow accounts, and I will follow up with them again.
Okay.
What's the Second Street property?
What?
The Second Street, North Second Street. That you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's the one that we're giving to the Land Conservancy.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
It's that,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So that'll be coming off the books soon, which is good because, you know, it's the one thing the auditor always picks up on because there's no basis for the valuation of
I was
fund
about to
balance.
say the valuation is incorrect.
Well, we don't know.
Exactly.
Well, we had an appraisal done and it was not, did not meet what the, is on the books.
Right.
So does anybody have any questions on the unpaid bills? I did not remember to bring the current bank reconciliation, so I will bring those next month for someone else to sign off on so that we have two sets of eyes looking on them. And then attached at the end is the proposed 2025 budget that was put together by CEDC for our initial review.
Basically, we have to provide the Authority Budget Office the 2025 budget, which also requires us to project out 2026, 7, and 8. As you know, it's hard to do that not knowing the timing of projects. Although we do have several projects in the hopper, we have been conservative and are looking at $10 million of new projects next year as a guess. Obviously, the other expenses are comparable to what we have estimated in the past. We dropped down in 2026 to 2028 to a 10%, 1% of a $6 million project. Again, not knowing what the market will bear or what projects might be proposed and approved or not approved by the IDA. It is a budget, and I do think that it's realistic in the sense that with 3 or 4 projects before the IDA, that one might be approved, and based on that, we used $100,000 as the marker. If you brought in more money, I don't know that the state would mind. If you bring in less money, you would just deplete your bank balance to cover any operating loss. And as we know, our expenses are the CEDC contract, which has been base contract. If there are no projects, I believe the IDA is covered under the city's insurance, but we're looking into that. And any extraneous expenses for general legal expense and the accounting. So your fixed expenses, as you'll see, are under. I think we had them going forward. Total expenditures of $50,000. So you could stay in business for 10 years without any new projects, but that's unrealistic because there's a lot of activity going on in the city.
I just have one question. The top line charges for services under revenues. Why did it decline from the revenues on that top line?
I'm sorry,
And the top line.
charges for services? Well, it's based on the 1% fee on the projects
I see.
that were closed, and we can go back and give you a list of what projects
No,
were
no,
closed
that's fine.
and what
That's
years,
fine.
just
Yeah,
for
okay.
background.
That's fine.
And what's the assumption for the estimated 2024 charges? What are we thinking is going to close in 24? Make up that number?
The 395.
Yes.
Well, at the time, that's the number we put in last year. At that time, we
Oh,
were,
so it's not an estimate, it's actually the 2024 budget,
Yeah.
original budget.
Yeah.
it was what we estimated, but it was an estimate based on a possible depot district, a possible 701 and 720 Hudson, possible Crescent. I mean, there were
Yeah.
projects that were before you.
So in the reporting, are we supposed to just report what the budget is, or are we supposed to report an estimated? I guess my question is, should we be revising that, given the fact that we know that not all of those are going to be happening?
Well, Lisa, do we know this
I
is,
usually don't,
I don't think the
Okay.
form,
because at the end of the year, when this is due.
We put in the.
I don't
in
think the
actual,
form-
So,
I don't know that the form for the budget going forward requires you to address 2023 or 2024. I think that was for your information.
Okay.
It set a baseline so you can see, how we came up with 25.
I have a general question. The IDA generally responds to funding requests for companies or businesses that want to open in our area, and we consider them on basis of how it impacts the city and the potential positive impact. Can the IDA, since we have such a robust budget, can the IDA self-initiate a project? I don't have anything in line, but can the IDA do that, or can the city? Can you self-initiate a project from the city and support that project?
Chris, I'm going to defer to you. I know there are IDAs that buy land and, develop a commerce park. They do things of that
Right.
nature, but I know there are limitations on grants and other types of expenditures. So I'll defer to our council.
That's exactly right, Mike. The IDA is not allowed to make grants. The IDA could undertake its own project. If you look at the definition of projects in the IDA statute, it's the type of project is really a bricks and mortar type of project in general. So it would be sometimes acquiring and clearing land, sometimes, as Mike says, a commerce park or doing utilities in a particular area, providing, streets, that sort of thing to entice, development to that area if that's what your goal is. I'm sure Mike can advise you about how those have worked in other areas and what ideas, might make sense for a community like this, which is relatively fully developed.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the budget?
Okay, so if there are no other comments or questions from the finance committee, I will open it up for public comment. Anyone? 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 There being no public comment, I ask for a motion and a second to close the meeting. Margaret motions.
I'm not.
Oh,
Finance.
Who else?
I guess we're gonna approve the budget for your finance. Actually, before we close
Yeah,
the
you can't
budget,
close it yet.
can we go back and, can I have a motion and second to accept the proposed 2025 budget and to bring it forward to the full IDA council for approval?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Now may I have a motion to close the finance?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, welcome back. I will now pass it to Mike Tucker for Administrative Director's report.
Yes, I had sent to the members of the Hudson IDA as well as the county IDA information that the New York State Economic Development Council is holding their annual IDA workshop, informational and educational programming on November 7th in Ossining. CEDC is a sponsor, so we have 4 complimentary passes for the event. It's an all-day event, and Ossining isn't nearby. Last year it was in Newburgh, so made a lot more sense to attend. I know Randall, you had indicated an interest in possibly attending. I will send it out again. We're a month away,
Right.
so if you are interested in going, you have time to let us know, and we'll remind you again, and maybe you could take a closer look at the agenda to see if it's of interest to you.
Mike, I am interested. I just need to confirm something on my
Okay.
calendar.
Great. The K&R housing project, Skylar Court and Providence Hall, the developer, K&R Development, did close on the purchase of that on a bridge loan. And so they were able to move forward, and they're looking forward to coming back to the IDA possibly by year end to close on their financing. As you know, there were multiple hurdles, both from the state and from HUD. And it was really a relief in my mind, and I think certainly in the city's mind,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
the project closed last week. And we continued to work with the developer, during the interim to be sure that anything the IDA or CEDC could do to be helpful to make that happen. As you know, it's 151 units of Section 8 housing that's been in existence for more than 20 years. And their proposal remains the same, to come in and do a complete overhaul of the project while tenants are in place. And they've successfully done this in Kingston and in other upstate cities. And I think, I know I've spoken with Mayor Noble, and I think the mayor has also spoken with other of his colleagues about the fact that they know how to do it, and they do a good job. So it's very exciting that they hopefully will be able to move forward with the IDA following that. 701, the Elks Club, they are in touch with them each month in advance of this meeting. I believe they're through the zoning board of appeals process, but they're now at the historic preservation process. They anticipate coming back or coming to the IDA when that process is completed. And that's for a 40-room hotel conversion of the Elks Club.
It's 601.
You said 701.
I'm sorry, 601, it's 720.
Yeah.
Yeah. 720, the McKinstry Building, they did apply for a New York State, Empire State Development Market New York Capital Grant to complete their financing package. it's anticipated that those awards will be made in the next month or two. So there'll be some indication whether they will be back to see you. You'll remember that they were approved over 3 years ago, but they will have to come back and resubmit an application based on the terms of that approval, as I understand it. Is that correct, Chris?
Right, because they didn't move forward on the terms and conditions that the original documents allowed. So there would need to be an amendment, if nothing else.
As you can see, I keep getting the addresses mixed up because at one point, one of the depot projects had a State Street address, not a 7th Street address, but certainly you can see the project that's being built now. You'll recall that with respect to that application, we did engage BJH Advisors in New York City to do a review of the proposed construction budget, financing, and operating pro forma to present to the IDA a report as to the reasonableness of the project and of the pilot that the developer has requested. I spoke with BJH last week. They will be prepared to make a presentation to the IDA at the November meeting.
So, Mike, are we talking now about the one that has not started
Yeah.
yet, where we had the application a couple of months ago?
Right.
Okay.
And in addition, you'll recall there was a second study that we had discussed with Pattern for Progress. And that was to take an inventory of available rental units in the city. We had some delay on that because of some confusion with the real property tax office. I hadn't been specific enough, and so they gave us the addresses of the owners of all of the multi-unit buildings in the city, not the address of the building. So they went. It took us we're a week or so behind on that. And I know, Margaret, you had some questions about the scope of that study, and Chris Brown, our housing coordinator, is here. And I thought we could have a brief.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I was at the meeting where that was, I think
Yeah.
that's when I was at training.
Yeah, so the good part is that it was delayed so we can accommodate any other.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little
Yeah.
bit more about that study.
And I think, Chris, we anticipate once that study is complete, and it shouldn't take too long, that Adam Bosch, who's the president and CEO of Patterns for Progress, would make a presentation. He may come in person, but he did a presentation for the Columbia County Board of Supervisors Housing Task Force, and the details and specifics of the income levels that have migrated in and out of the county and the city, as well as the affordability of housing. And Chris, I know it was a county level deep data, but if you could just talk about the 5 top industries and the employees of those industries and how their housing percentage versus their salary.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be able to remember the industries offhand, but I know that the five largest cohorts of employment sectors in the county, pretty much 75% of all workers in the county would qualify for housing at 100% of AMI or below, and 50% of all of our jobs would qualify for 80% and below. And there's clearly, there's a shortage of housing units in those price ranges. So I think what we're trying to get at with the report with Pattern is what's the match there? How many units do we need? How many units do we have, and how many do we need at certain rent levels that match up to those income levels?
So will this study provide us with, one of the things I would really like to see is something that shows us the total number of, whether they're income linked or not, the total number of rental units in the city, how many are income linked versus not, and how many of those units, kind of a grid that would show also units held by landlords. So you would say, okay, for landlords with 1 unit, we have X number of landlords, and for 2 units, then you multiply that to get the tally. I'd really like to see, what the mix of, landlord, to number of units looks like in the city, and many of those are income linked, and many are not income linked. Is that something we'll get out of this study?
One of the issues we're gonna have is, for the 4-unit private, building that's already rented, where they're not out advertising what the rent is, we may not,
I see.
we have to do some kind of a survey. And, we'll have to make it, comfortable enough for the owner of the building to want to fill it out without identifying exactly who they are.
Yeah, without being able to access lease information, it's difficult to get at what actual current rent prices are. It's a real data issue. If you were to go to the census website, which is essentially where we get most of our housing data from, it would tell you that the median rent in Hudson is about $900, but that includes people that have been in the same apartment for 20 or 30 years. The rent's not gone up because it's not really a snapshot of what's currently available at certain price points in the city or in the county, depending on the scope.
But we can
And I'm guessing
include,
you also can't really get a handle on, how much inventory there is versus how much inventory is actually on the market. I.e., what's available, but for whatever reason is not actually being offered.
Yeah, that shadow market of apartments it's one of the real bugbears of this work, right? Because there are quite a few units throughout the county and in the city that people have, but they're much more comfortable renting it to someone that they know, so they don't advertise them. So there's sort of this shadow market of apartments, and that's great for people that need apartments that are maybe under market, and that's what those are offered at. But if you're a new employee of a company that's trying to move to the county, that doesn't help you. The things that aren't advertised aren't really helpful in a housing search.
and one of the issues we're having, with the Flanders building, which obviously is in Greenport, but,
Which building is that?
Flanders, it's the manufacturing facility going out Worth Avenue.
Oh,
Like near the prison.
yeah, oh, I know exactly.
In front of the
Yeah,
prison.
yeah.
I have to do a, kind of song and dance when we've had some really serious contenders and they want to know, can you guarantee 125 people show up at work the first day that we open our building? And we've been in touch with the college, with Questar, with the Department of Labor, with the Workforce Investment Board, the Chamber, ourselves. And we do our best as a SWAT team to explain, and I actually did a radius survey, 50-mile radius, and there's more than 500,000 people that live within 50 miles of here, but they get a little skittish when they think that people have to drive to get here, and then they start looking at what it costs to live here, and they get a little more skittish. So I do think it's a chicken and an egg and a chicken problem, but we have to continue to look at it, and I think the benefit of this will give all of us, but more importantly, the members of the agency, information, at least additional information as to what type of projects you might want to encourage, if any at all. So, I know I had a preliminary call from Martin Ping from Hawthorne Valley Farms and Ben Fain about their proposed development of a market down at the waterfront Kaz area. I don't know that they're ready to, but they were inquiring as to whether IDA financing would be available. There are restrictions on retail, but there are exceptions to that we would have to evaluate if the agency was interested in considering it. But obviously, we have not received any applications from them yet. Pocketbook Factory seems to be moving along, and the final is Crescent redevelopment. That's the Packard building or the Ackerman building on Warren Street across from Social Security. And they are moving forward, but asking at what stage would the IDA have to be involved? I think there was some concern about some of the upfront costs, but at the same time, they need the IDA support to make their budget work. So I think they're going to have to, come in talk to the IDA when they're ready. That's a mixed use project where there would be a small amount of retail on the first floor. The balance of the first floor would be offices. Second floor, as I understood it, and second floor would be residential, and the top floor would be some type of an event space. Again, I think you'd have to see what the proposal is and see what they're asking for. Other than that, I guess, did we have action on the Columbia Land Conservancy? We need to address that. Is that correct, Chris?
That's correct. Would you like me to introduce that?
Since you've been talking with the
Yes.
Conservancy and the fires.
Yes, so the board previously approved that project. And then there was a request by the city to have a portion of the land conveyed to the city before it was, the balance was conveyed to CLC. So we processed that, but when they went through the subdivision process, they looked at it a little more and they decided that the city would like to have a larger portion conveyed to the city. So there is a map. I don't know if you want to show that map on the screen, Mike, so that the board can see it. I know it was in the packet. That shows an area of approximately 3.9 acres, which is adjacent to the city's parcel, that they have now proposed that the IDA convey to the city, and that will bisect the parcel that is being conveyed to CLC. Therefore, there's going to be a trail easement across that area so that they can continue to facilitate their ultimate plan of developing that trail area across, as it's feasible across the areas that they are acquiring, that CLC will be acquiring. So there's a resolution presented to the board, and there's just a recitation of how we got here. And then what's being approved is the modified disposition parcel, and the sort of the same parcel that we were always conveying is being conveyed, but part of it's being conveyed to the city, part of it's being conveyed to CLC, in both cases without consideration.
So on this map that we have, exactly which parcels are
So if you see parcel A1, there are two parts of that. One is, if you're looking, sort of look at the Hudson River, then there next to that, there's a large portion that's, a lot of swampy area. That's parcel A1, a portion, and then then you keep going towards the east and you see parcel A2, 3.911 acres. That's the parcel that would be conveyed to the city. You see a little hook, what we call a land hook there. That parcel is to be merged with the city's parcel to the south. Excuse me. And that's all been in discussion with Rob Perry. And then, as I understand it, the city council, according to Andy, the city council did approve that acquisition by the city, so that, because of course we can't convey property to the city without the city approving it. So we understand that that was approved, and the subdivision has been approved by the planning board. So then, Margaret, if you keep moving to the east, that other portion of the land, 13.786 acres, over on the eastern portion, much more hilly area, that is the other portion that would be conveyed to CLC. And that's all part of the lands that were remaining to the IDA, originally acquired through HCDPA, and then portions to the north developed, by the ADA for manufacturing purposes, and then the remainder determined in a prior process to be not useful for development and therefore approved for conveyance. So this is just modifying that conveyance to CLC that was already approved by taking a bigger portion out to give to the city before we do that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, a motion and a second to vote on the resolution of the city of Hudson Industrial Development Agency authorizing the modified parcel to be conveyed to the city of Hudson in connection with purchase contract for the conveyance of the North Bay parcel A-1 to the Columbia Land Conservancy.
I make a motion.
Roll call. Vote.
Paul Johnson,
Aye.
Heather Campbell,
Aye.
Joe Keswick is absent, Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Margaret Morris. Randall Martin.
Aye.
Charles Millar.
Aye.
Carrie.
Any further business before we voting on the budget today?
I think we included, wait, did the finance report get
No, it didn't
presented to
include
the full
that.
board?
No, not by the full board.
Yeah, we need to.
All right, I get a motion in a second to vote in approval of the 2025 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Favor, well, roll call.
Paul Johnson,
Aye.
Heather Campbell.
Aye.
Joe Keswick is absent, Dominic Moranti.
Aye.
Margaret Morris.
Aye.
Randall Martin.
Aye.
Charles Millar.
Aye.
All in favor.
We need to vote to pay the bills.
So that's where it was.
I mean, technically, no, because both of them have already been approved by the board with previous, they're not new, so.
And they're subject, and one is subject to a contract that's been approved by the board, so.
All right, great. I believe that's all before public comment.
I just think it's terrific that you've approved the transfer of that land to Land Conservancy. That will be a great resource and recreational activity for years to come. So thank you.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Public comment?
We're good.
All
I
right,
think there is
I'll
another.
open up the floor for public comment. There being no public comment, ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.